spend too much time trying to figure it out. All right, everybody, welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Barb Cardell. I'm the Training and Technical Assistance Director with PWN, and we want to welcome you today for our Getting to Know PWN Sisterhood, Community, Solidarity, and Action introductory webinar. We have a few logistics. The meeting is being recorded. We are in webinar mode on Zoom, and so your videos are off and you are on mute. As we come to the question and answer part, if you want to raise your hand, we'll go ahead and take you off of mute, and you can go ahead and ask questions, or you can ask them throughout in the question and answer box, and we'll be paying attention to that as we go along. And again, we will have time at the end to answer questions. Our presenters today are a whole amazing group of fabulous presenters. We've got Nana Khanna, who's the PWN Colorado Executive Director. We have Vanita Ray, who is also our PWN Co-Executive Director. That's the problem with being from Colorado, as you see CO and you instantly think Colorado. So I'll start again. Nana and Vanita, who are our PWN Co-Executive Directors. We have Brianna Diaz, who is our Policy Director. We've got Ebony Turk, who is our PWN Field Organizer. Jenny Smith-Camejo, who is our PWN Communications Director. And we've got me, Barb Cardell, the PWN Training and Technical Assistance Director. Throughout our presentation, we'll be able to talk about our departments, how PWN is put together, and hopefully we'll be answering any questions you might have as we go along. So we want to welcome you to PWN. This webinar has been set up for both our new and our seasoned folks, members and allies. However you come to our meeting today, welcome. We're going to hopefully have something for everyone. We're going to talk a little bit about PWN, our mission and our structure. We'll introduce you to our PWN program. Then we'll talk about how you can get involved. And then we'll have questions and answers. Are pretty simple. Our goals today are getting to know who PWN is, learn how to get involved, and then also really try and increase understanding of why we need a gender analysis in HIV, which is really why is PWN, the Positive Women's Network, so important. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Nana and Vanita to welcome us.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Barb. Vanita, do you want to go ahead and start us off?
Well, first of all, just welcome you all, old and new, and I don't mean young and old. I mean those we've met before, and some of you who are newer, who we may not have met in person before. We'd like to welcome you to the Positive Women's Network USA. If you are here, you are a member. We're happy that you're here. We are hopeful that you will learn a little bit about PWN today that will make you want to get more involved with PWN in the past, or answer some of the questions that you've had that you've never had answered, and understanding what PWN is and what it does. I'm going to also hand this over to my co-executive director, because PWN now, as of February, has a co-executive director. We have two of them. I am one, and I'm going to introduce the second one. I'll let her introduce herself.
Great. Thank you so much, V. Welcome, everyone. I'm Nana Khanna, she or they pronouns, with Positive Women's Network, co-executive director, along with the amazing Vanita Ray. So you might know that, as Vanita said, PWN has shifted to a co-executive directorship model. We're really excited about this. What it means is basically we have we jointly kind of steer and navigate the organization in collaboration with our members and our constituency. And that's all of you. And so fundamentally, you know, we see our job as listening to all of you and making sure that we're responding to our constituency. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how PWN came to be and why we're here. And I come to this work as a woman living with HIV. I was diagnosed in 2002. And so, you know, many years ago, in 2008, when we formed PWN, Barb, could you go to the next slide, please? We had, basically we were looking, you know, as women and trans folks living with HIV, we were kind of looking at the national landscape and what was going on in the HIV community. And we were seeing that, you know, even though things were getting better in a lot of ways for people living with HIV. Was more medication access. There was, you know, newer treatments that were easier to take and things like that. There still was a lot of stuff that wasn't going right for our community. And so we were seeing racial disparities increase in terms of who had access to quality healthcare, who's experiencing stigma, discrimination, various forms of oppression in healthcare settings and in the world. We were also seeing that there was sort of this story being told that, you know, the epidemic was over, and we knew that it wasn't over, especially for Black women, Black trans folks, people of color, that the epidemic was very much not over. Our communities were still suffering, and that there were so many ways in which women and trans and gender nonconforming people were continuing to fight for a place at the table. And this was not new. This is from the very early days of the epidemic, when, you know, often the story that's told of the HIV epidemic is sort of like literally whitewashed story. That was primarily written by cisgender males in power. And so, you know, from the very beginning of how AIDS was defined in ways that didn't include women-specific conditions. And so, you know, people really fought to make sure that that opportunistic infections that are more likely to impact women and trans folks were also included as part of those definitions. And that's where these slogans come from. Women don't get AIDS, they just die from it. And so we were really uplifting that in a national response to the epidemic, women needed to be a priority. And so some of what you're seeing here is, this is like a banner that we made here in the middle at a CDC conference in 2009, when we decided to take over the stage at a plenary session. A plenary is like when the whole conference kind of gathers to, you know, hear updates. And in this case, we were hearing updates from the federal government. There was a new director of the Office of National AIDS Policy. And we wanted that person to know that we were here, and that women and transgender people were demanding a place at the table and a response in the epidemic that really works for us. So, so we formed very much to organize a collective voice to advocate for these issues around racial and gender justice in the response.
And say one other thing too, yeah, if you don't mind. And I come to this work as a woman living with HIV as well, diagnosed in 2003. And I did not see many images of women, of folks who look like me. They tend to be white, cis, male, talking about the things that impacted me. And it wasn't until I found the Positive Women's Network, I finally found some women who were not just talking, they were fighting and ferocious and standing up for the kinds of issues and the concerns that I had that no one else was speaking to. And so in 2008, 28 diverse women, that includes transgender women, gender nonconforming women, and non-binary folks living with HIV, came together to vision an organization creating a unified voice to build collective power for women living with HIV across the United States. So you would never have to just see this slogan that we don't just die of HIV, we also can live with HIV, that we can control our own destinies by writing our own stories and creating our own programs and deciding the things that were good for us and what we needed and what folks needed to know about us. Next slide. Sorry, Nan, I got carried away.
No, that's great. Like, one other thing I just wanted to highlight here is that for many years, and since the beginning of the epidemic, really, women and trans folks had been fighting and leading and building organizations. And so, that's how we have organizations like Christie's Place and the Women's Collective and Sister Love and World, and so many organizations, more than I can name, Iris House and others, that have been doing such incredible work for such a long time. Smart University, founded by folks who were directly impacted by the epidemic and working to create spaces that were safe for women, for transgender people. But what we didn't have yet at the time PWN was formed was a way to all get together and say, here's what we're seeing in our communities. How can we strategize together to build our power together? And, unfortunately, a lot of smaller organizations, especially those that are run by Black and Brown folks of any gender, have gone away because they haven't been funded adequately or resourced adequately. And as the epidemic has become more biomedical, a lot of those spaces that we're attending to support groups and care and linkage to services and things like that also have kind of disappeared off the landscape. And so we were really coming together to say, we need this, we need spaces for us, by us, nothing about us without us, right? And so that was very much part of the vision. So a lot of these 28 founding members were people that who founded organizations like Babes Network and World and the Women's Collective and these other places.
And you have to remember, in the beginning, a lot of the programs and a lot of the medicine and a lot of the things that were being tried on us, they were first tested on white, cis, primarily gay, primarily white cis men, and hopefully, they were hoping that they would work on us. And so we began to want to have a collective voice that talked about the things that were important to us, not one voice here, one voice there, but a collective voice so that we could get folks to listen to us. So our mission, is this for me? Our mission at the time was to prepare and involve women and people of trans experience living with HIV in all levels of policy and decision-making to improve the quality of our lives. We began to say nothing about us without us. We began to talk about by and for us. If we weren't doing it, if it wasn't by us, it probably wasn't for us. And I recognize some of the faces in these pictures right here from Houston. Next slide, please. Our theory of change that we began to develop over time was one of liberation to transforming systems to building power. Because without all three, without that theory of change, we could not improve the lives of women and trans folks living with HIV. So we envision a world where women and transgender people living with HIV could live long, healthy, and dignified lives free from stigma and discrimination. Nana, you want to read about how we will get there?
Yeah, absolutely. So these are the strategies we use to get to the vision of the world we want. Number one, we cultivate and support leaders. We know that our community is brilliant. It's our job to just make sure that leaders have the support they need to lead. We organize. We organize on issues, we organize on elections. We also work to change culture. And by that, we mean, looking at issues like stigma, looking at how we talk about particular issues, talking about full reproductive and sexual rights for people living with HIV, for example, talking about, if you joined our Mother's Day event, that we had a whole set of conversation on the many different forms of parenting and family formation that women and transgender people living with HIV are building. And so that's part of how we work to change culture, is change the way people think about HIV and about people living with HIV. Of course, we work to change policies, because we believe that we don't just need Band-Aid solutions, we actually need the systems to work for us. And we're really clear that many systems that have been created were never set up to work for us. In fact, they were set up to actually harm our communities in the first place. And so we need to actually change those. We need to change the policies and who's making the policies. And then we also want to work to heal our people. And healing is a big part of leadership. It is a part of advocacy. It is a part of organizing, and it is a part of who our community has always been and who we are with each other, from folks who are running support groups to doing peer-based services, to people who are, many of our members who are creating art and cultural work and things like that. So that's all part of healing our communities. And then doing all of that with a lens on race, gender, and economic justice.
And I think it's also important to tell you that not only are our members doing this work, we have partners and allies that we'll talk a little bit about, who throw down with us every day to help us change these systems and these policies. Some of our values and our principles are, self-identify. We get to decide who we are. No one else tells us who we are. Root cause analysis, prioritizing impacted communities. We are talking about what the root cause of the epidemic is, not other people. Changing the balance of power. We believe this is important to shift those policies we talked about. Sustainability, whatever we do has to be lasting. Meaningful involvement, that means you, that means me, that means us. Meaningful involvement, not check the box, not come feed us some chicken and send us home, but meaningful involvement. We need allies. I just talked about, we can't do this alone. We have people that throw down with us, our allies, our accomplices, our partners. We have a herstory. We have a long herstory that talks about how we got here and the things we did and the things we changed. And it is a long herstory. We didn't just arrive. We've been around 14 years? Mentorship. We believe in mentorship. We mentor each other. We believe that is how each one teach one, we mentor. Accountability. We are accountable to you, our members. People of trans experience and women living with HIV are our members. We are accountable to you. And leadership development, that is another value that we believe that when we do that, miraculous things happen. And I'll turn it over to Nana for our principles.
Thanks, V. I think for time, I'm not going to go through all these principles, but I'll say that we'd love to talk to you all more about them. But basically, what this all boils down to is, like, we believe that our people are brilliant and that our communities deserve to speak for themselves and to live with full dignity. And we believe that when we lift up those communities that are most impacted and most harmed by the HIV epidemic, so that's primarily Black and Brown, queer and trans folks, low income folks, women. We believe that when we lift those communities up, everybody rises. And so that's the fundamental lens that we bring to the work that we do. And so thank you so much. And I think with that, I'm turning it back over to Barb.
Thank you, Nana.
Yes, and we're going to Ebony next to talk about disclosure and structure.
Yes, so hello. I'm Ebony, National Field Organizer. And disclosure, we want to let you guys know that we believe that all women living with HIV can be leaders regardless of their disclosure choices. Um, Disclosure is a continuum, and we demand opportunities exist for participation in planning and policy groups for women along the disclosure spectrum. So whether you disclose your status or not, we demand that opportunities exist for you. You should be able to participate as well. Our disclosure is our choice. Disclosure can mean many different things at different times and look different for each person, and we understand that. A leader can be effective whether openly disclosed or private about their status. All right. So we wanted to give you a little bit of our structure. We are structured where our members come first. Everything we do starts at our members. And then we have a board of directors. Our board of directors is 100% people, women living with HIV, women and trans women living with HIV. Um, and then we have our two co-EDs who you've met. And then we have the organizing department, which I'm a part of, policy, communications, trainings, operations, which you'll hear all from today, except operations. And then that leads to our members again, chapters, who you'll hear more about, and our state leads. So who is PWN? That's the question here. So we are members. We are women and transgender and gender diverse folks living with HIV. That's who we are. We have chapters. We have statewide groups led by PWN members operating to build power at a regional level. We have state leads, which are members acting as contact and coordinators for states without a chapter. And then we have allies and accomplices, everyone who supports and will advance our agenda. So members plus chapters, state leads, plus allies, plus accomplices, all equal PWN. That's who we are. And then our board of directors. This is a great picture. 100% of our board are women and transgender, women and gender diverse people living with HIV from across the country. We specifically recruit Black, Latinx, youth, mothers, and Southerners, and we make decisions using a modified consensus model, centering the most impacted people. And here's our beautiful staff. You're meeting some of us today, but that is the staff. I'll let that sit for a minute. I'm not going to introduce everybody because you'll see. All right, next slide, Bart. And now I'll turn it over to our policy director, Brianna.
Hey y'all, it is really great to meet some of you and see some familiar folks in the chat. As was mentioned before, hi, my name is Brianna Diaz and my pronouns are she, they, and I'm the policy director for PWN. So I fit in that chart, and yeah, I'm gonna just briefly talk about the policy department, our work, and one of our programs. Next. So, as I know you've heard from Vanita, Nana, Barb, and Ebony, you know, PWN does a lot of great work supporting community and women, people living with HIV, and also advocating in favor of policies that, oh, Brianna, sorry, I saw the chat, Vanita, I like that. Advocating for the rights, recognition, and dignity of women and folks with trans experience living with HIV. And so we have a phenomenal policy agenda with 6 main policy priorities. And those are universal health care, economic justice, sexual and reproductive health rights and justice, ending criminalization, trans rights, safety and justice, and ending violence against women living with HIV. And so those are 6 big, broad policy issues, of which were identified and selected, I believe in 2017, 2016, probably earlier, by our board members and members. So our policy agenda has been set by and for members of Positive Women's Network USA. And within these, yeah?
Yep.
I got it? Okay. Sorry, I got to work on my history, but I think the big takeaway is that these are 6 issues that were decided by our members who are women and people of trans experience living with HIV. And within each 6 issue area is a lot of other sub issues. I really recommend that if you'll have time, please check out our website so you can view some of the fact sheets we've made on these issues, outlining our policy priorities within each issue, what issues we have been working on, as well as seeing the work our members are leading. We at PWN are here to support the leadership and work our PWN policy advocates are leading on the ground. So definitely check out the agenda if you want to see more of that work. Next slide. So I want to kind of give a little bit more in depth into one of the agendas. So like, what does our policy work actually look like? How do we define the issues, and how do you see it in the day-to-day? So I want to break down sexual and reproductive health, rights, and justice, one of those bucket issues. And PWN, meets this agenda item by working towards a world where full reproductive justice and bodily autonomy, including the right to pleasurable sex, are upheld for any person of any gender and any HIV status. And bodily autonomy is the idea that individuals have the right to control what does and does not happen to their bodies. So this, I would say that our reproductive health, rights, and justice work extends beyond what we might traditionally view this work as, such as fighting for, to protect the right to an abortion, access to birth control and other healthcare needs. We also look at how one has power over decisions they make with their bodies, as well as trans affirming healthcare and other issues. So next slide, where I can give some examples of that. So here are just some ways that sexual and reproductive health, rights, and justice shows up in the life of women and trans folks living with HIV. Back in the previous administration, the Trump administration, we saw that administration roll out something called the domestic gag rule, as well as a global gag rule that actually prevented money from going towards family planning services that provided things like HIV testing that had a detrimental impact on folks living with HIV or communities vulnerable to it, and that they couldn't access inclusive, affirming, and wraparound services, such as testing and connection to treatment and care. As part of sexual and reproductive health, rights, and justice, we also work at the state level in partnership with sex work decriminalization organizations to address harmful state and federal laws and policies that target sex workers. And so an example of that is our work that we're doing with Decrim California to repeal a loitering law that targets sex workers. And I just had a couple other examples of how sexual and reproductive health, rights, and justice shows up in our day-to-day lives. That includes most recently, a Supreme Court case that's going to be heard about abortion and a new law that's limiting the length of time one can get one. So yeah, these are just a couple issues that PWN identifies and does work on in partnership with our members. Next slide. So I know policy can seem a little like a lot, like it might be a little intimidating, right? Like when we talk about laws and we talk about who is writing the laws, like how they're impacting our day-to-day, the nuances of these laws, like it can definitely be intimidating. However, we have a phenomenal program. We're in year 5 of this program called the PWN Policy Fellowship. And what it is that our policy fellowship is for all women and transgender and gender non-conforming folks living with HIV. And it is the intent of the fellowship to increase our fellows' ability to engage effectively in federal, state, and local policy advocacy. I see some policy fellow alums are attending this, so I don't know if y'all want to share your experiences in the chat for any new folks here. And within the fellowship, we also believe it's critical that women and transgender and gender nonconforming people living with HIV have the tools and skills, support system, mentorship needed to be the advocates they already are in their own communities, right? We're just here to, build on the skills and passion y'all already have. So yeah, we've had 5 years of policy fellows, and folks are talking about it now. It's the work y'all are doing in your respective states is phenomenal. Next slide. So what the policy fellowship is, it's a 12-month fellowship. We typically go from April to April in 1 year and ending in March the next year. And what it is, it's a set of web-based trainings tailored to develop policy expertise. So topics we go over include Government 101, like what are the 3 branches of government? We also go over how do you mobilize in your community? Like how do you organize folks on the ground? How do you do digital organizing? We also connect folks with mentors and coaches at other nonprofits that are doing policy advocacy, so you can build your network of folks to lean on when you're doing this work. So I said that. We also engage with national advocacy coalitions, which is really fun, let me tell you. And then we also want to learn and apply marketable writing, research, and organizing skills to support your professional development. Like, I don't want to speak for folks that are here, but I believe that some of the fellowship skills that have that some of our fellows have learned, they've been able to apply into careers in advocacy and policy advocacy, specifically within the HIV movement. And I can just say there are some folks who are able to take these skills and do things like change HIV criminalization laws in their state. So there's a lot that you can learn about policy, how it intersects in your life, how to advocate for policy issues that are important to you, and how to turn this into a job. Let me tell you as a policy director how much of a job this is, how fun it is. If you are successful in completing the requirements of the fellowship, the 12-month long process, you receive a certificate of completion. And you also really, I think what's most important is develop a practicum, which is a resource or tool or study into an issue important to you. And you get to leave with a phenomenal tool to show all the work that you put into this fellowship. I think that's all I have, but I'm happy, I'll stay on. So if folks ever have questions about the fellowship or anything more about policy, I'm here. Thanks, y'all.
And with that, we'll pass it off to Jenny.
Hi, can you go ahead and go to the next slide, please?
Jenny.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Jenny Smith-Camejo, she, her, hers. I'm in Oakland, California. I am the communications director for PWN. I see some familiar folks on here. Hi, some new folks. Hi. We're actually going to stop sharing the slides for a minute because I am going to take you on a little tour through our website real quick, because we have so much stuff on our website. We have tons and tons of resources for you, and it can be a little confusing maybe. There's just a lot to navigate. We're always working on trying to make it more user-friendly, but there's just a whole lot on there. So I wanted to give you all a quick tour just to show you some of the stuff that you can find on here. There's a lot more. Let me go ahead and take you there. Okay, so you'll see when you go to pwn-usa.org, our website, this is what you see. And so if you want to find out what, the latest thing that we've commented on, or the latest thing happening, if you just scroll down here from this homepage, you're going to find any organizational statements that we've put out. You will find our organizing spotlight stories, where we share some of the successes that our members have had and some of the great work that you all are doing. You'll see press releases that we've put out. So all of this is here. And you can click here, view all news and stories. If you're looking for a particular thing, there's a search function as well. And it takes a while to load because there's about 18 million things here. So just to give you an idea, there's a whole lot here. So if you're interested, feel free to browse around. Some of the stuff that you may be looking for, you're gonna find under resources. The resources tab up here at the top is going to take you to a place where you're going to find lots and lots of stuff. So one of the #1 things that I would recommend that you check out if you haven't already, or that you even bookmark on your computer or your tablet, wherever you access your web browser, is our how-to guide to advocacy for people living with HIV. This is a huge toolkit, a huge resource that will take you through basically everything you need to know to get started in policy advocacy or to take your advocacy a little bit forward. So part 1 is about getting started. This is really the ABCs. We're not going to go through everything. I'm just going to give you an idea of what's in here and how you can look at it. So how are laws and policies created? You'll see we have webinar recordings in here that address these different topics. How can your actions impact the community? So there, you'll see there's a lot of videos. There's a glossary of language, words, terms that you might hear in advocacy, what they mean, the basic structures of government. So these are just a few examples, but you'll see there's a whole lot of graphics and videos. So it's not just a bunch of text. There's really great information in here. And there's 4 parts. You've got getting started, you've got the wide world of advocacy, where you can do whatever you like. It tells you all the different ways that you can get involved in different kinds of advocacy, from legislative to budget to administrative. Really important stuff that folks don't always know. Planning and building a campaign, getting your message out there, so the communications component, my favorite personally. And we've got a do-it-yourself starter kit that has templates. So things like how to call your members of Congress, how to write a letter to your legislators, mobilizing, creating an action alert, sorry. So plenty of good stuff there. Back here, going back to resources, we also have a policy advocacy resource center. This is somewhere that you're going to find fact sheets, lots and lots of fact sheets, ones that you can download and print. So if you're going to visit a legislator, you can download and print these fact sheets to take with you, depending on the topic you want to talk about. How-to guides, toolkits, other resources, advocacy frameworks. And we've got a whole training and tutorial section with some more recordings of some of these webinars we've done. So for folks who are into advocacy or getting into advocacy, you want to bookmark this page, lots of good stuff. We've got the Communications Resource Center, similar type of thing. I won't go through all of that right now. We've got your monthly policy updates. So our policy team work very hard on these. We have one for every single, you'll see every single month going back to January 2017. They go out by email as well. So if you're on our list, you'll be getting those by email. Check them out. They're really comprehensive and will give you lots of great information. The policy agenda you can access from here. Brianna already went through that with you all, so I won't do it again. We've got resources for organizing. So we've got an organizing resource center where you're gonna find lots of stuff. We've got resources for women living with HIV. So this is not necessarily advocacy, though some of it is, but this is where you're gonna find our PWN Care series. Some of you are probably familiar with that. These are some videos that we produced over the past, I think we've produced them over about 3 years. They're featuring our members. They're discussing topics of interest and importance to women living with HIV. You'll see motherhood, advocating for yourself, dating with HIV, mental health, stuff for trans folks, disclosure, and U equals U. And this one is about healthy relationships and intimate partner violence. There's a lot of, if you click on these, you'll find a lot of great resources, including discussion guides, recordings of online conversations that we had with the folks interviewed in the videos. So that's something you will want to check out if you haven't already. We have our recorded webinars page. So every webinar that we ever do, we record it and we upload it here. These are in chronological order, starting from most recent, going back. So unless you're looking for something pretty recent, it's probably not going to be the best way to find your, if you're looking for something that we did a long time ago, you're probably going to have better luck through those resource pages. But if it's something that's been within the past few months, you're going to find it here pretty easily. And then we've got a Know Your Rights for HIV criminalization, a toolkit around COVID and HIV and intimate partner violence, and our PWN Speaks blog. So if you're not familiar, our members do submit blogs to us. It can be about anything you want to write about. It can be related to policy, but it doesn't have to be. Literally anything that you want to write about. And we publish them here. As you can tell, we've got lots and lots and lots and lots of them. And we would be happy to take yours as well. So if you have something on your chest that you want to get out, just send it over to me. It doesn't need, I will help you edit it if you want me to, or if it needs help, but it's whatever you feel like saying. And if you want to publish it anonymously or in your first name only, that's totally fine. We do not require you to share your full name or your real name. So these are a few things here. And then on the training tab, I'm going to go through these really quickly because I know I don't have a lot of time. Training tab, you'll find, again, this is another link to the recorded webinars. You'll also find upcoming trainings there. Another link to the advocacy guide, our trainers, you can find a link to that. Some of our webinar series, so different things in training. On the news and media tab, this is my favorite since this is my area. A link to the Communications Resource Center, again, monthly policy update, PWN Speaks blog. This is where you'll find our statements and all of that stuff. And then our newsletters, which is, these go out by email once a month, usually around the end of the month. And they have our Shiro of the Month stories in them, as well as our organizing spotlight stories, upcoming webinars, lots of good stuff. So these are all archived on the website. So you can go in and look at old ones if you're looking for something or you want to share something that you saw. And media contacts, guidelines, won't go through all that right now. And then just real quick, the Get Involved tab over here. So very important, if you're not already registered as a member, or if you would like to sign up other folks as members, this is where you can do it, just from the Get Involved tab. Become a member of PWN, and it'll take you right to the membership form, and you would just fill this out, click Join PWN USA. You're going to get an email, and then Ebony will be getting in touch with you. So it's fast and easy to sign up. If you are in a state where we have a regional chapter, you can actually sign up for PWN's national organization and your regional chapter at the same time by just going to the regional chapters page from that Get Involved page. And for example, if you are in Colorado, where Barb is, you can go to the Colorado page and you will see a little bit of information about PWN Colorado, the chair in Colorado, and you would just fill out this form, and that will sign you up as a member of PWN and also PWN Colorado. So just something to know. And I think, yeah, there's a lot more stuff on here, but I think that's a pretty good overview of what we've got on our website. Just the last thing I'll show you real quick on the About Us section. And here's another link to register as a member. You can look at our board of directors, you can look at our staff. You can also check out our Shiro of the Month. If you want to nominate a Shiro of the Month, get in touch with me, or you can fill out this form on the website. Every single month we choose a new Shiro of the Month, and they're all amazing members doing amazing things. And so, yeah, if you haven't checked this out, check it out. If you want to nominate someone, including yourself, you can fill out the form or just get in touch with me. So I am going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And Barb, do you want to put back up the slides? Thank you. Cool. And so real quick, social media, some of you are probably already following us on social. If you're not, we are on all of these channels. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, and we're on YouTube. You can probably find any of us by just when you go to the channel, just looking for Positive Women's Network USA, but here are also the handles that you can find us at, and they're also at the bottom of the emails you get from us. So if when you get an email, scroll all the way to the bottom and it'll take you right there, and you can make sure you're following us. Next slide. And finally, the last thing I'm going to share with you all, we have an amazing cohort of member spokespeople. What this means is these are folks who represent PWN and women living with HIV more broadly in the media, in public speaking engagements, at presentations and conferences. A lot of them write op-eds and blogs as well. We have some really amazing writers. And so if you're someone who's public with your status, you're interested in talking to media and being, a sort of public face of PWN and of women living with HIV, by all means, get in touch with me. We would be happy to have you join the group. And also coming this summer, probably in August, might be September, stay tuned. We're going to be launching the PWN Speakers Bureau. And this is open to all interested women and trans folks living with HIV. We're going to be doing training, preparation, practice, and feedback on different types of public speaking, including media interviews, including keynote speeches, including public comment for legislation. And it's going to be practice in a low stakes, judgment-free environment. Everyone who's there is going to want to see you succeed. They're going to give you helpful feedback and a lot of support and good training. So definitely, if you are interested in doing more public speaking or getting started in public speaking or just working on your public speaking, you're definitely going to want to check out the Speakers Bureau, and we'll be sharing a lot of information about that when it's ready to share. We're still in the planning process right now. And if you have ideas for it, please, by all means, get in touch with me and I'll be happy to chat with you about your ideas. And I believe that's it for me.
All right, so that means it's back to me. I'm going to tell you a little bit about organizing. Organizing is pretty much the connector from the community. The organizing department communicates with you all, the members, and we help with organizing in your communities or nationally, and connect you to all the other departments if need be, although you can reach out to the departments yourself. Next slide. So we support women living with HIV to be leaders and to mobilize in their communities. It is essential. It is an essential part of the PWN organizing department. So we have 7 chapters: Pennsylvania, New York, Colorado, South Carolina, Louisiana. We have Texas as a state, but we have 2 cities in Texas. And then our newest chapter is Alabama. And then we have 9 state leaders: North Carolina, Florida, Tennessee, Virginia, Nevada, Michigan, Missouri, Oregon, and Arizona. If you are in any of those states and you want to connect with any of those people, please reach out. If you are in any of those states and you want to become a leader, please reach out. If you're not in any of those states and you want to become a leader, please reach out. Both. Members at large. Our members at large are all members of PWN. You may not be in a state where there is a state lead or a chapter, but you are still a member and we still engage with you. We connect and communicate with community partners and allies. So we make sure that our members are connected to their community partners. You guys help us connect with community partners. And we make sure we connect with allies too. We share resources for a myriad of things. Anything that comes across our emails or anything we know that is happening, we share it out to our members. The way we connect with our members is through a national membership meeting that we have once a month. All members are welcome to come to that meeting. All members are welcome to come and share whatever they're experiencing at that meeting. And we also do a training on that meeting. And then we make sure we foster community and build leaders. So PWN is a community of women, trans folks, gender nonconforming folks living with HIV. We're all in community together. We're all here to support each other. And most importantly, we're building leaders. So that's pretty much what the PWN organizing department is about. And you're welcome to contact.
And I think that Ebony might have frozen. So I'm going to go ahead and just say, here's a map of the United States where we have all of our chapters and state leads as well as our bases highlighted. And then I'm going to go ahead and talk about the Training and Technical Assistance Department. So for training and technical assistance, we work to develop training resources that support our members, support all of our other departments. And we have just graduated our first cohort of our Rise Gender Justice Training Program, which trained 8 transgender women to be able to go forth as certified PWN trainers, which we're very proud of. We work with the PLHIV Caucus, coaching the People Organizing Positively project, which develops leaders living with HIV. And very exciting, we work on planning our in-person summit, which we hold every 2 years. And here is just to remind everybody of when we were together last in Myrtle Beach, how wonderful that was. And hopefully we'll be talking about having our in-person summit coming up soon. So with that, I think it goes to Nana to talk about our accomplishments.
Thanks, Barb. Sorry, it took me a minute to get off mute. Thank you so much. Wow, I feel like our team kind of covered it, and a lot of you have been chiming in on the chat box about some of the accomplishments from PWN. And I want to just reinforce that, you know, our accomplishments are things that we all do together. So I saw a bunch of policy fellow graduates in the chat, you know, chiming in about their experiences. We have policy fellows who have changed laws, as Brianna said, who have, you know, like helped to launch and nurture efforts to mobilize folks in state legislatures and things like that, who have organized voters across the country. And so, you know, PWN has really done a lot over our last 13 years, and we've done it in community with all of you. So, we have run Get Out the Vote efforts in 2016, 2018, and 2020. In 2020 alone, we reached over 1 million voters in several different states through our members leading a lot of work. We're really proud that we have partnered with the Zero Project and others on the production of the HIV is Not a Crime National Training Academy. This year, we launched something called Celebrate and Honor Black Women in the HIV Movement. And this is part of our commitment to racial justice and to really elevating leadership by Black women in our movement and honoring and celebrating that. And so we launched a new National Day of Action, March 12th. 2021 was the first time, but this is going to be an annual day of action where Black women in the HIV movement are celebrated and honored. And we ask organizations and the movement and the community to do that as well, to recognize and honor Black women in the movement. We know that many of you helped to defeat multiple attempts to repeal the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, you know, so basically this major policy that expanded healthcare for our community that some folks have come after and tried to decimate. And our members, there's a picture here of some of our members basically celebrating killing one of the repeal efforts after lots and lots and lots of organizing and folks contacting their legislators, decision makers, people getting arrested and going to jail, protesting this, and really highlighting how getting rid of the Affordable Care Act would harm people living with HIV and people with other disabilities. We're also really proud that we have helped to elevate the entire national discourse on women and HIV. And so in response to the National HIV/AIDS Strategy, which came out in 2010 and was then renewed in 2015, we worked with partners in the federal government and federal agencies to really uplift some issues around trauma and violence and other things that impact women living with HIV. And you can see here, Vanessa Johnson speaking at a White House level convening about HIV and violence against women and girls. We also launched a National Day of Action to end violence against women living with HIV. And this really came out of our looking at data both anecdotal data and data, in the literature, but really seeing what was happening in our community, that women and trans and gender nonconforming folks living with HIV are at much higher rates of violence from intimate partners, from community. We also tend to have higher rates of trauma from lots of different things that have happened in our lives. And so we basically launched a day of action to demand an end to violence against women living with HIV. That day of action is every October 23rd. And it was launched, I believe, in 2014. And so I think we're going on our 7th year this year of Day of Action. Sorry, trying to get to the next slide. Barb, can I give you back control of your screen? Thank you. We have a number of members and chapters who have been a huge part of defeating either new proposals to criminalize people living with HIV or modernizing laws. And so I know that, this year alone, we had Virginia with the leadership of ECHO VA, Deidre, Cedric, and other folks who worked to modernize their HIV criminalization laws in Virginia. Our chapter in Colorado was able to modernize their laws many years ago with the leadership of several of our members, including Barb Cardell and Carrie Perry. We had in this year in Texas, there was a new proposal to criminalize people living with HIV that has been defeated by the Texas Strike Force. And I see some of our strike force members on here, including Tana. Also in Pennsylvania, we had a proposal to criminalize people living with HIV in this legislative session that was defeated or basically is dying in committee as a result of a lot of organizing by PWN members, our allies, including, working in close collaboration with the Zero Project and AIDS Law Project. And I see Michelle on here from Pennsylvania and possibly others who really helped to make that happen. And much of this work has been possible because of a sustained commitment from you all to, stay in the game and keep doing this work and make sure that policies really work for our people. This is year-round work. It doesn't only happen in legislative sessions. It doesn't only happen in election cycles. It doesn't only happen when, the governor goes to cut the ADAP program. It's because of the presence that you all are building and have been building year round that's what makes it possible to activate in those moments and say, no, this is not what our community wants. So that's a big piece of the work as well. I also want to uplift that a major piece of our focus over the last few years has been really strengthening our commitments around racial justice and trans justice and trans liberation. And so we've been doing a lot of work internally at PWN to make sure that we can be more accountable to our members who are Black and Brown folks, that we're really addressing anti-Blackness as it shows up in HIV movement spaces, including our own spaces, and that we are contributing to creating an environment that is safe for transgender and gender diverse people and not reproducing transphobia in our own spaces. And so this is active work that we continue to do, that we're committed to doing. And we do have trainings and materials and things like that we can offer to folks as well. So I'm going to just summarize with a little bit of what's going on right now. Barb, oh, thanks. So right now, as folks might know, there's a lot happening at the federal level, at the national level. We have a new administration, we have a new Congress. We're in a moment of opportunity where some of the harms that have been done by the previous administration are being rolled back or addressed, but there's still a lot of work to do on the federal HIV response. And so the people living with HIV networks have been coming together, organized by the U.S. People Living with HIV Caucus, to basically create a shared agenda for liberation for people living with HIV. And so we hosted a community event on May 4th that you can watch. It is online. It's on our YouTube channel, which Jenny shared earlier. We're going to have a lot more events and activities coming up with people living with HIV leaders really talking about what it takes to make sure that the response by the government is working for people living with HIV. We are more than our viral loads. We are more than our CD4 counts. And we need a response that really accounts for all of our needs: housing, food, mental health, all of the different things that go into making us who we are. We are not just about a health condition. We demand to be able to live, full lives. So there's no way to end the epidemic without really taking care of people living with HIV. And guess what? When the epidemic is, quote unquote over, we're still going to be here. We damn well better be here. And we have a right to be cared for by our government and to have our human rights protected. And so that's what we're really talking about now. So stay tuned. Definitely check out our website and check out our Facebook page and YouTube channel to stay in the loop about all that stuff that is going on. And Barb, I think I'm passing back to you.
So it's actually me. Next steps.
So looks like Ebony might have frozen. Nana, is she frozen for you?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go ahead then. And next steps, and when Ebony can hop back in, we will go ahead and welcome her back. So next steps are to go ahead and sign up with us, to join, to become a member or an ally. However you would like to join, we would love to have you. You can go ahead and click on our PWNUSA.org link, and it'll take you to our website, and you'll be able to sign up there. Just to let people know, we do have a little pink button right here that is join the PWN as a member or ally. It's on our About Us page. And then there is also another button that you can use to join as well. And if you would like to join a chapter, you can go ahead and just find that chapter in your state. And as Jenny went ahead and showed us when she was giving us the tour of the website, showed that if you went to a chapter page, you could go ahead and click on a link there and you would be signed up for the chapter as well. Ebony, I see you're back. Do you want to add anything?
I'm sure you did great, Barb. Thank you. Just join us, please.
All right, wonderful. And so now we are at the point where we can go ahead and answer any questions that people might have. Otherwise, yeah, we are who we have been waiting for, and we just appreciate you joining us so much. Thank you to all of the staff that talked about their departments. And it looks like we have a question in the chat box about, is PWN doing anything about people living with HIV and aging? Is there anyone who would like to?
So I'll just say that we'll have the 40th anniversary of AIDS is coming up. So we will be having a Facebook Live about HIV, aging, long-term survivors. We'll be having an intergenerational conversation with two long-term survivors, which we'll talk about aging as well. On Jenny, remind me what date? Remind me of the date, please.
It is June the June the 4th, I want to say. Hang on, let me confirm for you real quick. I'm pretty sure it's no, June the 3rd, sorry. Thursday, June 3rd at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central, 4 Mountain, 3 Pacific. So
that'll be on our Facebook and YouTube pages. And you can join. Specifically long-term, we have conversations about HIV and aging, but if that's something that you are interested in, if you want to join, if you're a member, you can contact us, you can reach out, and we can work on something specifically. If you see something missing in your community, or you see a conversation that's not had, we want you to come to us and let us know, and maybe, let us talk about what it is that you think can be done. I'll also say that we also work with our partners. There's a Reunion Project is one of our partners. They specifically talk about HIV and aging only. That's their goal, HIV and aging. So we work with them a lot, or, refer people. We lean on them for education, things like that. But if it's something you want to do, please reach out and let us know what it is you're thinking, and maybe even write a blog about it that we'll post. So let us know if it's something that you think we should be focusing on more on, because remember, we listen to our members.
Great. Thank you, Ebony.
Mm-hmm.
So we have another question. We actually have a whole bunch of people in the chat box who are talking about how great the resources are. Thank you, Jenny, for your tour of the website. Someone said that there were things there that they had never even seen before. So go, yeah, it's an amazing website, and I would encourage everyone to take a little bit of time to poke around, and also just talking about how great the trainings are, as well as just our programs. So Ebony, there's another question in here. How many years is considered a long-term survivor? And it could be that it's you, or maybe even somebody in the policy department wants to take it.
Yeah. What I'll say is I will not put a number on what is considered to be a long-term survivor. If you survive a day, if you survive a week, if you survive a year, 5 years, I don't know what's considered necessarily being a long-term survivor, but I do know there are people who have survived 40 years. There are people who have survived 20 years plus. They're definitely long-term survivors. There are long-term survivors who were born with HIV and they are surviving and thriving. So those people are definitely long-term survivors. I've never seen a number, like a definition number of what is considered a long-term survivor, but as I said, it's probably up to the person and the program that is, if there's a program that's doing it. Maybe that's something we should find out, if there is a definition.
You did a great job, Ebony, because I was at the Reunion Project and folks tried to quantify that, and long-term survive of what? You have people who are born living with HIV and have survived as long as sometimes the long timers who acquired it as an adult. And then surviving what in addition to HIV. So I don't think they put a number on it. If you go to the Reunion Project, you might find one, but it is a very fluid kind of thing, because people long-term survive what? There's a lot of things folks have been surviving. And so that will be a great research project to go look at the Reunion Project, or either another organization called Kick Ass, and they will they have a definition out there as well.
Great, and that was Vanita Ray, who is our co-executive director, and thank you for that great response, Ebony, and for that addition, Vanita. Brianna, it looks like you came off of turned your camera on. Did you have something you wanted to add to the HIV and aging? All right. So there's a couple of links in the chat box, and it doesn't look like there are any other questions that we have from people that we haven't answered yet. And so I'm going to give people one more minute or two to ask questions. All right, looks like we have gone ahead and answered everything that we needed to. So thank you for joining us. And Ebony, did you want to go ahead and conclude on the webinar?
Sure, thank you guys for joining us. This is our contact information if you have additional questions. We have an open email policy. You can email any of us and ask any questions that you want, and we will respond the best way we can with whatever resource we can if it's something that we can't do. Excuse me. Please take a few minutes to fill out our evaluation before you go. And thank you all for joining. I hope to see new signups from some of you all. If I do, you will receive an immediate email from me personally, thanking you for joining our family. We appreciate you, and we hope you all have a good night.